Hi everybody, I'm back again talking about the planet series, and I'm going to now discuss Rahu, which next to Saturn is definitely the most feared presence in a birth chart, and for good reasons. Um, it's an energy. It's a planet, but it's a shadow planet, and therefore makes it very difficult to interpret and understand. And the way that it manifests in a chart is so unpredictable that there's hardly anyone that goes through the Rahu Dasha that isn't dramatically changed after experiencing it. And most times during Rahu, you go through a lot of transformation. So what exactly is Rahu anyway? We know it's the north node of the moon. Basically, it's the point in space where the moon crosses the ecliptic point, which is the path of the sun around the earth. That's Rahu. As the moon crosses the ecliptic point upwards, that is considered where Rahu sits. As the moon crosses the ecliptic point going downwards, that is where the south node of the moon is, which is Ketu. Again, that's the path of the sun. So they're always 180 degrees away from each other. This is really what it amounts to if you want to see it from a technical standpoint. In your chart itself, it of course holds a lot of symbolism beyond just a mathematical point in the sky. So now let's get into that. What is Rahu and how does it manifest in a chart? And you know, is there anything that we can do to balance the energy, because it's a very erratic energy. So the real essence of Rahu is reaching beyond the limits, which is why it's a very erratic, chaotic, unpredictable energy, because that is what Rahu is here to do. And in your chart, it's really the reason for your rebirth. So it's very important to understand Rahu and Ketu and what they're doing there. So the essence is reaching beyond the limits and fulfilling your desires, your past life aspirations, ultimately leading to spiritual growth, which is where Ketu plays a part. And this is why they're opposite from each other, because you're here to experience what Rahu is, but then ultimately you're going towards Ketu anyway, right? Ketu is bringing you towards Rahu and then bringing you back towards Ketu. So that's how the whole dynamic works. So now first we have to see the mythology to understand Rahu, and what this energy is and how it plays out in our lives. So that's the core of it, the foundation. So the famous mythology, which of course actually this exists in all traditions, not just Vedic tradition, and that is all about seeking immortality. In other words, seeking what is inaccessible to a human being. So as the famous story goes, after the completion and process of the churning of the ocean, to get this precious nectar, which is going to give you immortality. So what happened was, to avoid confusion between who the asuras were, which is the demonic force in us, and the devtas, which is the more supreme, the more the gods, the godly energy. They were divided into two camps. And what happens is basically Lord Vishnu took the form of this enchantress called Mohini, and took it upon himself to serve the nectar to the devas. So the actual plan was to finish the nectars before the Asura's turn came. And realizing this plot, because, and this is sort of goes to how clever and astute Rahu can be. So the Asura by the name of Swarbhanu understood what Vishnu's intent was. So he crossed over to the camp of the Devas, and he disguised himself as one of them, and basically seated himself between the sun and the moon. But the sun and the moon discovered his trick. They came to know that he was Swarbhanu and he's not one of the Devtas. So they reported this to Vishnu, and feeling, of course, enraged by this sort of deception. What happened was Vishnu hurled from his head the Sudarshan chakra, and he whipped it out and severed the head of Swarbhanu. So this is why there's Rahu and Ketu. There's basically the head is one and the body is the other. So what happened, of course, that by the time this was done, he had already ingested a few drops of the nectar. So he did get certain powers from it, and therefore became immortal. So now the head came to is known as we know Rahu, and the body at lower half is known as Ketu. So they became the 8th and 9th planet of the zodiac, respectively. Yeah. Now, when we talk about this famous myth, which is again in different degrees and variations, it exists, I think, in all traditions. What we're really dealing with here when we say the churning of the ocean is basically your psychological restlessness. In fact, you can call them storms, you can call them strains, you can call them your subconscious desires, the reason that you are on this planet, your fears, your anxieties, all of those things. So that is what the churning essentially is. And if you don't understand that aspect of yourself and your birth chart, then basically you would have missed the point of this birth. And in order to understand that, you have to basically look at where the nodes are situated in your birth chart and what are they doing, and how is this energy manifesting? Because remember, not everyone is going to get a Rahu dasha, but everyone will get at least a Rahu or Ketu dasha. So they will experience this one way or the other. Now, if you're lucky, you'll experience it later in life, because remember, the maturity for Rahu is 42 approximately, and Ketu is approximately 48, by which time this energy, you just intuitively understand it better, and therefore you can deal with it better. I think it's a lot more difficult to deal with when you get it at a younger age, especially if you're 20s, and because it can cause a lot of chaos in your life. Rahu and Ketu do bring a lot of pain and suffering. They can bring trauma. They can bring depression, because again, we're talking about your psychological impulses and subconscious fears and desires and things like that are coming to the surface. It also has like an obsessive quality to it. Which makes us do things that are not under our control, and sort of makes us seek things that are always beyond our reach. So now let's talk about some of the variations of how Rahu, when situated in the chart. So like, for example, Rahu with Venus is it has a lot of plus points, but of course it can cause a lot of illicit affairs in relationships. So Rahu and Venus, that's kind of the negative, the negative manifestation of it. And even in transit, you have to be watchful of getting, I would say, don't get involved in a new relationship when you've got a Rahu and Venus conjunction in the sky. it also is someone who's involved with things to do with beauty and luxury. It could of course very easily symbolize someone from a foreign place. So in other words, if it's a conjunction that is in your chart, you would marry somebody who's a foreign, someone who's foreign to you anyway. Okay, so Rahu with Jupiter. And this can cause problems with children. Sort of some kind of uniqueness with a child that, or some kind of issue with having children. It can also, of course, symbolize gurus from foreign places, so that's quite good. But one thing to be watchful with Rahu and Jupiter conjunction is, if you're getting a guru, for instance, who has sort of an unconventional bent and way of expressing themselves, that's fine, and that's perhaps the positive manifestation of it, because Rahu is unconventional. But you have to watch for deception in that case. So you might be attracted to all kinds of gurus that maybe are leading you astray. So that's something to be watchful for with the Rahu and Jupiter conjunction in your chart. Rahu with the Sun and Moon, obviously that's what causes an eclipse, and so that is a very unstable energy, and because it affects the mind and the ego directly. So that's something that you absolutely must have some kind of spiritual practice in your life to manage that energy. Rahu with Mars is someone who's very, very driven, very ambitious, very courageous. Could be a good athlete, perhaps someone who has a very strong sexual drive, because Mars is also desire. Rahu is basically that which we want that we cannot have. If we can just put it in a summary there. But because of the nature of Rahu, because it's obsessive, and it doesn't stop until it gets what it wants, it goes after it anyway. So it doesn't matter if it's something that you cannot have. When you have your Rahu Dasha, or even your Antardasha for that matter, or it could be it could be a dasha of a planet that is associated with Rahu. If you've got a conjunction with Venus, or it could be a Venus dasha, then whatever Rahu has made up its mind to seek and to possess and to have, it will not basically give up until it has it, and that is basically the nature of Rahu. So when something does come into your life and you're going through the Rahu dasha, and or perhaps in transit, it's affecting your sun and your moon, just be mindful of that. I'm not suggesting not to go after it, because you will want to, but perhaps understand whether it is something that is good for you, or whether it is just something that is based on unfulfilled desire, and so it may not have a long life. So that is something to be aware of Rahu energy in the chart, and when it manifests. Rahu does, as we all know, it does exceptionally well in Upachaya houses, especially the 10th and the 11th house. With the Upachaya houses, one of the reasons that it does well is because the Upachaya houses are houses of growth, and they get better with time. And the nodes also get better with time. I mean, they mature in your 40s, but actually throughout your life they do get better, because you can handle the energy better. And not just can you handle the energy better, but you can manifest the good bits from the node, from the nodal energy. Because remember, it will also manifest into great spiritual growth if you are that way inclined. But again, Rahu's nature is obsessive, and it wants what it wants. And our obsessions can often drive us. So if you are going through a Rahu Dasha, as I mentioned, it's very important to cultivate a spiritual practice. I mean, it's important to cultivate a spiritual practice for many reasons, but it's particularly if you're in a nodal period. because not only will you manage your uncontrollable desires, but because of that spiritual practice and something in your life daily is obviously what I'm talking about here, whether it's mantra, japa, whatever, or it could be pranayama, it could be kriya, meditation, yoga, what have you. Through a daily practice, not only are you managing the uncontrollable desires, but you're also gaining a sort of a keen intuition to understand what is real and what is not real. So rather than suggesting, well, with Rahu, yes, it's going to push the limits and you're going to go after things that are not easy to get and that are inaccessible, rather than not doing that, perhaps what is better is to understand what is real and what is not real, and what will benefit you and what will lead to your downfall. So that's the thing that the spiritual practice will give you that discernment, and the discernment is what will help you manage the Rahu Dasha, because then you will be making decisions a little bit more clearly with a perhaps clearer head. So another effective remedy for Rahu is, because it represents that which is inaccessible, is any kind of Durga mantra. Durga, the word itself translates into inaccessible, and this is why Rahu's deity is Durga Mata. So you have to maybe create the link there to manage Rahu, and Rahu can be very effectively managed with a powerful Durga mantra or chanting or meditation of any kind. Do Navratri fasts, so anything for the goddesses will work and will bring you good results. Now, what is Rahu the Karaka for? We all know Rahu is a Karaka for technology, for illusion, for deception, for gambling, for mystery, for obsession, for anything foreign, people, places, things, anything. Skin disease is another Karaka, it's represented by Rahu, actually. Harsh speech, traveling, obsessions, astuteness, cleverness in business, especially in business dealings. Any kind of inflammatory disease is represented by Rahu. Pilgrimages, the parental grandfather is represented by Rahu as well. One final thing I want to talk about with Rahu is, I find that a lot of clients come to me for a consultation when they're either going through a Saturn or a Rahu Dasha or Rahu Ketu. It tends to be a common theme, a common time when people seek out some advice. To predict what's going to happen in a Rahu Dasha is quite difficult for most astrologers, regardless of what they tell you. The reason being is very simple, because Rahu is essentially churning up subconscious desires and fears and anxieties. So it can go all over the place, and this is why it causes so much chaos in your life, because it is so unpredictable in its nature. So predictions can go awry any time because it operates in a very, very quick fashion. There's a lot of suddenness, there's no warning, and that's both for Ketu and Rahu. That's their nature. But of course, depending on the soul's evolution, Rahu's effects can be felt on the lowest levels, or it can also you can also direct. If you direct that energy properly, you can gain so much on a spiritual level, and not just a spiritual level, on a very material level as well. Because if you can direct the Rahu energy properly, then you can actually achieve anything. There are no limits with Rahu. So if you are directing the energy properly, and you're focusing on that which you want, it will actually come to you. this is the power of Rahu in a chart. So it becomes very, very essential to understand what Rahu is and what it wants. Why have you taken this rebirth? Because the answers are in the nodes. The problem, of course, is because of the unpredictable nature of Rahu. It can strike in a very destructive way as well. So in order to manage it, again, it becomes very important to cultivate some kind of a practice. What I would say is that there's a lot of things that you can do to understand what Rahu is. I think journaling, your thoughts and your feelings. I think that's a very, very, very good way of doing it. As I said, a Durga mantra is very, very effective. A daily kind of practice is absolutely essential. And if you start doing those things, you will see that, and if you start giving, you could do service of some sort. You could just in your daily life, the people that you know, that you could sort of be more giving without expecting something in return, and I guarantee it, you will get tenfold back because again of Rahu's nature. For abundance, and so you have to sort of tap into that. It's very important to tap into that, because that is where you will understand Rahu better, and you will actually gain from the dasha rather than lose. So there's an article on my website that I've written about Rahu and my thoughts and observations on Rahu dasha through looking at clients' charts, and I'm also sort of in the middle of my Rahu dasha, so I've been making my own observations in my own life as well. So I think that's all I'm going to say now. I think I've said quite a bit already, and I hope that you found it helpful. Please subscribe below if you want to hear more videos, and check out my website, anahita.rao.com. Thanks, folks. Bye.